All right. What's up, everybody? I'm back here with Adam McKithern again. So excited to do this episode, start off the new year right. And I guess I'll start by asking, how was your New Year's? What'd y'all do? Anything crazy or just hang out?
Well, it depends on your definition of crazy, I guess. We got together with some families from church that have kids about the same age as Stephen James, my son, and
That can
went
get
out and
crazy.
popped fireworks. Yeah, only two kids caught on fire, so
Oh, that's not too
it
bad.
was a success. Yeah, and then one of the kids had gotten some type of gaming system like a Nintendo something, and so all of us parents that grew up in the '90s, we had a blast, showing them how Mario Kart's played.
That sounds like a good time. That can get
It
crazy,
was, it
though.
was fun.
I was going to say, you should see my kids around fireworks, but you actually have. And nothing has changed. They're still terrified of them. So
Stephen James, something flipped in him. So last year we went over to one of my friends' house and he was 3 and popped fireworks and he was terrified, didn't want anything to do with it. This year it's like, make things explode, daddy.
Which is always a good time.
Yeah, no, he's 4 now, so kind of getting into it, I guess.
No, that sounds
the
like
things that all boys are into.
We had a pretty chill night too. We did I bought like 100 soft pretzels and we played Dungeons and Dragons all night.
Oh, how the times have changed.
Yeah, it's we made it to midnight this year. That's the first time in a long time we made it.
Nice.
But I think
I always make it to midnight. I struggle to get there as the years go on. You have about 100 soft pretzels?
Yeah, but they're not like the huge ones. They're like this big, like little bitty ones.
Okay. I love soft pretzels.
They come in a giant bucket with cheese sauce.
Great.
Dude,
absolutely nobody listening to this cares about this, but mom has a bread maker and she discovered that she could also make soft pretzels in it. I'm just like, I'm going to gain like 300 pounds.
Dude, that's a good idea. Because I've got a buddy over there in Calhoun that he makes soft pretzels, and I would assume it'd be a lot quicker of a method to use a bread maker. I never even considered that.
I don't know. I don't make them. I just request them.
Now, Mom.
Yeah.
Meatloaf.
Speaking of Calhoun, though, how weird was it that or it might not have been weird. I don't know the behind the scenes. I'm just a guest up here. That the recruiter that y'all had was recruiting down in Lafayette.
No, that was crazy. I didn't even know. Like, I knew he was a recruiter, and the resume he sent me had a bunch of different backgrounds. I didn't know he was in Louisiana. I didn't see that on there for some reason.
I could kind of see it register on your face when he said where he was. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, which made it interesting to hear like his thoughts, being someone that's not from Louisiana, on what he has seen, and me kind of what I saw there growing up on like I think I had mentioned a lot of dudes either join the military or go to the oil rigs, and even down in Lafayette and Baton Rouge, he's seeing the same thing.
I wanted to ask you about that actually, and since this is kind of a freelance episode, maybe I'll take the captain's chair and pose a question to you.
Yeah, go for it.
So as you said, you graduated a year before I did. We went to high school together, old school together, and we're really good friends. And besides us two, I tried to count them up last night, and I didn't really come up with a good round number. I mean, what, a dozen between our two classes? And we're talking about classes that are like 40 to 45 graduating. Very small, yet who joined?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe about a dozen. So we're talking like 10% of each class, maybe. Why was that the case, do you think? Why did so many from this very small, I mean, like 300 people, 7 through 12 high school, why did so many join? Was it just a really good recruiter?
I don't think it's else? I think it's lack of things to do in that area, just due to like here in Pittsburgh, there's 2.2 million people, and the jobs are everything from electrical to mechanical to pneumatic to chocolate factories. Like, I mean, what's the closest chocolate factory to shoe drink? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think there were many options, especially when you're raised to shoot guns, to camp out a lot, to do a lot of the things that we're doing or were doing in the military. It just kind of seems easy and appealing. That's kind of how I looked at it. Was like, why would I go to college when I could do what I've been doing at home and go camp in a tent, shoot guns, and, you know, fight for my country and not have to like read a book.
That's funny. I think all that you said is right. Let me tell you what I was kind of thinking of when I was mulling this over. You tell me if this strikes true to you. So I think social pressure, and without the negative connotation applied to it, right, has something to do with it. So when you're a 17, 18-year-old boy who's a red-blooded American, and one of your, especially in a small school like that or a small community, when one of your peers joins up, there's a certain social pressure, or it's not even a push factor. It's more like a pull factor, right? Like you're in migration studies, you have push factors and pull factors, almost like a pull factor. It's like once that first one, and then the second one, the third one, it's like a domino. It becomes not something you feel like you have to do, but it's a more viable option than maybe it would have been previously. Besides the fact that, you know, we also can't forget that you had a brother that was in the military as well. And I had my mentor growing up, one of the guys that was like a second father to me. He was in the military as well. So there's a lot of that down here too.
Yeah, and that's what my next point was going to be. I think the South heavily pushes on family, and you know, blood is thicker than water is a big thing in the South. And our siblings or older relatives were there for 9/11, and most of them, out of, you know, sense of duty to their country, joined. And a lot of families are going to do the same. They're going to follow suit. And then, like you said, like my best friend Lowry, I remember telling him, like, hey, I'm going to join the military and start deploying. And like, he was like, oh, okay, me too. And I was like, oh, I was like, awesome, dude. And then, you know, it's just, you start talking to everybody and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to do that too. We're all going to join. And because I remember, boy, I can't remember his name, that tall dude in your class who went Marine Corps.
In my class?
Yep. Hung out with you, wore boots all the time. Super tall. He's like 6'6".
You're not thinking about Trey.
Yeah.
He didn't join the Marines, did he? If he did, it had to be a lot after we graduated.
Yeah, he was Marine Corps. So was Michael.
Did he really? No, Michael was Army.
Was he?
Yeah. He was a heavy equipment operator or mechanic. I can't remember which one. I talk to him annually, I guess, or biannually. We'll talk on the phone.
But there's guys like that I see all the time that were in that I didn't know had joined.
Yeah. See, didn't know Trey had. And then, you know, it's not just a school though. In my friend group that I grew up with in church, there was maybe 6 of us, and out of the 6 of us, 5 joined some branch of service, from Navy to Army to National Guard to Marine Corps. It is wild. And then I like what the recruiter guest that y'all had said, that the best recruiting tool is former veterans. And that honestly kind of made me stop and think for a second, because when I speak about the Army, especially around other veterans, it's maybe 70% of it's like belly aching, but it's belly aching in a way that other veterans would understand is actually like funny and good memories, you know?
Yeah.
But if a civilian were to hear it, they would say, why would I do that? Why that doesn't sound fun at all. So I don't know. So I put the military, like, I'm so glad I did it. I don't know if I would do it again at this point, like in my life, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
At like, you know, early to mid 30s. But I am super glad I did it. It set me up for success. Like maybe the man I am today, which you could either judge for yourself whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But that honestly hit me kind of hard Like, how do I talk about my military experience, and does it make other people want to join? Because I think it's not for everybody, but for some people, it's the best option.
Yeah, and it's awesome you say that, because that was my first thought too. As soon as he said it, I was like, oh wow, I do talk very negatively about the military when I'm like shooting the crap with people. It's just kind of what I do, is talk about, I guess mainly because it's more entertaining to talk about like all the crappy stuff that happened to you.
People love to hear those stories.
They do, and no one wants to hear you say like, oh, it made me feel prideful and arrogant and like puff out my chest to have people, congratulating me and honoring me on Veterans Day. Or it's just, I don't know, it's just a lot easier to be like, oh yeah, we picked up cigarette butts for 4 hours straight.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But yeah,
I think it's going to make me more aware in the future of how I speak about it. Maybe sprinkling some good with the bad, especially around people who are of an age to join the military. But anybody really, you could be around a parent of someone whose son or daughter is thinking about joining up, and that can have an effect on whether they do or not.
Yeah, my group of friends, there was I'd probably say 7 or 8 of us, and me, Ray, Lowry, Phil, and yourself. So at least 5 all joined, and the other 3, one's a mechanic and 2 went to work on the oil fields.
Yeah.
And those that didn't go to oil fields do designing and drafting for oil fields and pipelines.
That's a huge industry down here. No, absolutely. Yeah. And,
that's what
that pretty much accounts for about every male in our 2 classes. I think I had a graduating class of maybe 40 or something, and maybe a quarter of them were guys. There was a lot of dropouts. Around like 10th grade, 11th grade.
Yeah, ours too.
But old shoe drink.
Well, to kind of go on to the next topic, I think I told you I was going to try and do some maybe wisdom for the new year. Maybe anything that happened last year or previous years you'd kind of like to go over, maybe something you did right or wrong, to give some advice to some people for their new year.
So I guess the way I would structure this is, or the way I've been thinking about it, is that my resolution last year, it's always good at the end of the year to do kind of a after action review if you made a resolution at the beginning of the year. And mine was to be more involved in kind of my personal investments and finances. And
that's a good one.
It's like anything you do, you're going to do it poorly at first, which is kind of scary when you're talking about, your hard-earned money. But I'll tell you what I did to kind of practice and figure out kind of what worked and what I want to be invested in, is that I took my little pittance that I get for disability from the VA, which is like 10% for hearing or whatever. But I took that and used it to invest every month and kind of track, how those investments did and kind of where I wanted to shift or where I wanted to double down. And so that's actually been a really, I had a good year this year. And that's been very rewarding. It feels like you're actually taking control of your future. I guess not in somebody else's hands.
No, that's
that was my kind of my right thing that I did this year in regards to my resolution. What about yourself? Did you have a resolution back in 2021 or 2023? My goodness.
Oh yeah, 23.
Yeah, time flies.
I don't think that I had made one last year, just because I never really do. However, this year I'm going to, and mine's going to kind of fit into with this podcast and kind of why I started it. And that's, I think that if you are having problems with your friends or spouse or family, or you're wanting to help other people and struggling to do so, that taking care of yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually before you get to other people helps a lot. And that's something that I noticed was I would try and help other people with their problems, and I was so messed up. It's very hard to tell someone else, hey, you should do this, when I'm not doing it myself. where I have my own issues to deal with, and it just kind of like takes away from your kids or your wife or friends. And that's my main thing, is to kind of get your head straight, get your physical body straight and your spiritual body straight, and then start worrying about other people. Just kind of focus on yourself. And then once you're good, you'll be able to help others.
I like that. And then it's hard to be either spiritually, physically, or emotionally healthy when you're not the other two as well, right? It's hard to be, spiritually healthy when you're physically or emotionally not, and etc.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you said that, and this is so fresh on my mind. It kind of might seem like out in left field, but I'm preparing a lesson that I'm going to do at church next week about the Book of Job and the problem of suffering. And at the end, it's beautiful, but also tough. So the Book of Job suffers. He has everything taken away from him, gets sick. His three friends come and try to, tell him why he's suffering and offering him advice. And most of it boils down to, you've done something wrong. You deserve this. You should repent. Which, honestly, like from a Judeo-Christian perspective, that's not a wrong answer, right? We've all done something wrong, right? We all deserve to suffer to some degree. But at the end, after God speaks from the whirlwind and you have that theophany, he chides Job repents, but then God kind of lays into Job's three friends and tells them that Job has to pray for them and that they didn't do what they were supposed to do to his friends. And it struck me, this has never struck me before I read Job for the most recent time a couple of days ago. The reason that their advice was not right, that they did not behave correctly, was not because what they were saying was wrong. It's that they themselves had not repented before they gave that advice to Job, right? It's like the New Testament verse, you're talking about the mote in your brother's eye when you have a beam in yours.
Right.
At least that's my reading of it. It's one of those books where there's you can have a lot of different interpretations, a lot of different readings. But that struck me, and as you were speaking, that hit me as well. So I think you're right to do that. As long as so. I hate to keep going on like this, but
no, you're fine.
Yeah, one of my favorite books is Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, and with everything there is a vice on either side of every virtue, to put it mildly, or to put it in a way. So you have a vice of excess and you have a vice of deficiency, right? So with courage, for instance, courage is a virtue, but an excess of courage is foolhardiness, and that's a vice. Deficiency of courage is cowardice, and that's a vice. So with, focusing on oneself, that could be a virtue insofar as you improve yourself. But it can also be a vice if it goes to excess, right? If you just become self-centered with it, which I know you won't do that, but right. Something for everybody to bear in mind.
Well, and some people too might get a little offended or take it the wrong way. I'm not saying you have to look like The Rock Johnson. I'm not saying you have to be in the gym every single day. I'm just saying, if you're at a point in your life where you are down in the dumps, when you start physically feeling better, you're mentally going to feel better. When you start seeing changes in your body, even if they're slight, that day when you wake up and look in the mirror, you're going to feel better. And it's going to make you start going in the right direction mentally. Same thing spiritually. When you're not right with God, you're going to wake up and feel like crap. You're going to wake up, every little thing you do that's a mess up, it's just going to steamroll. Whereas if you wake up and you're feeling right with God, you're feeling right physically, mentally, it's just going to be a good day.
That is so true.
The biggest thing I took away from Job, since you brought it up, and it's always been one of my favorite things to mention, is like, I believe it's his last friend that kind of like changes his perspective. Job,
the young guy.
Yeah, he comes up.
Elihu. Yeah, the young guy.
Yeah, and he asks him, he says, who Job finally breaks down and says, why is this happening to me? Why would God do this to me? And his friend's response is what always caught me off guard. It was, who are you to question God? He put you here. He gave you everything. If he wants to take it away, he doesn't have to have a reason. You're not going to understand it anyways because he's all powerful. You're not going to be able to comprehend what he has in store. And that always made me take a step back and be like, who am I really to like question anything he does?
Yeah. No, that's so true because that, Elihu, I think that's the guy's name.
I believe
says
so.
that. And then God comes out of the whirlwind and says the exact same thing, right? Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? When, this and that and so on and so forth. God, that's so true. And I think that is, since we bring it up, we're just going to keep talking about it. I think that is the ultimate solution to the problem of evil is that our ways are not God's ways, that we have a time limited perspective, whereas God does not have a time limited perspective or a geographically limited perspective for that matter. Right. Where was I going to go from there? Oh yeah. And I think people mistake nice for good. People say, what God is doing is not good, when in our actuality, what they're really saying is that it's not nice. And the illustration I like to use, and you have 2 daughters and I have a son, and this isn't pleasant to think about, but say you and your wife were both, y'all knew that y'all weren't going to be in y'all's daughters' lives anymore. And you had the choice of having them being raised by a rich family but they were an unloving family. They were a cold family. Your daughters would never want for anything materially, but they would never get that love. They would never be raised virtuously. They wouldn't be raised in church, for instance, versus a family of lesser means. And, your daughters might not have the best clothes, might even like take it to the extreme. Like they might go hungry sometimes. Right. But this family was a loving family, and would raise your children in a loving and Christian way. So what is the nice option versus what is the good option? 2 different things, right? And from their perspective, right, it might be, I would rather live with that rich family than that poor family that would love me though. So that's kind of how we are in relationship to God sometimes, right? We want the nice thing, but he wants for us the good thing.
Yeah. No, I kind of looked at it as a military perspective too. Like you see someone getting the dog crap smoked out of him. He's doing hundreds of push-ups. Not only are you physically making him better, he may have messed up something that could have ended someone's life. So you're instilling in him never to do it again. And it may not look nice or fun, and it may look like, he's sucking, but he'll also get the point and get stronger mentally and physically.
Spoken like an NCO.
he'll get it.
No, you're right.
Or he won't. And my whole point of view was either he won't get it, but he'll be so strong when he messes up, he'll be able to take the brunt of it.
Yeah, that's funny. It's every Joe says that they're never going to be that NCO. It's like, I'm never gonna smoke the dog crap out of somebody.
Yeah,
but it's like you either get out a hero or you stay in to become the villain you despised.
Well, it's like your kids. When I'm an adult, I'll never punish my kids. The first thing they do,
right?
And then I guess my next one, this would be a kind of a good segue, was kind of to understand that every day or every new day is a day you can restart. So don't think just because it's January 1st, this is it. I'll start now. And in a couple weeks, if you didn't start, be like, oh, this year's gone.
Gotta wait till next year.
Yeah. Any day you wake up is a good day to start doing things the right way. So if you're wanting to get in good physical shape, any day you wake up, you need to start going. Forget about everything prior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% true. And we so often get in our own ways with that. And And what I would say, for those who are wanting to set a goal to resolve to do something this year, I used to be more cynical about New Year's resolutions than I am now. I think it's a nice like hard break, right? The end of something old, the start of something new. Like we psychologically need that, or at least some of us do. Maybe some people are more psychologically strong than I am in that regard. I could set a goal, willy nilly and follow through with it every time. But when you set a goal, so many times people fail. I believe, right? You might have a different opinion. You might agree, because it's an amorphous and unmeasurable goal, right? So say, a common one, someone wants to lose weight. Okay, how many pounds? Right? How do you know that you've accomplished that goal, or you're moving towards that goal? How do you know in July, how close you are to achieving that goal if your goal is, I want to just lose weight, right? Yeah. That could be a pound over 7 months. Or you could say, okay, I'm 3/4 of the way, or, I want to get stronger. How much you want to bench? Or, I want to become more learned. I want to read some of the classics of like the Western canon. Okay, well, what's your bookshelf look like? Have something measurable. Amorphous goals are just you're setting yourself up for failure and depression and self-criticism.
I'm glad you said that too, because one of my New Year's resolutions was to read more, and that's all I had put. But I guess I should ask myself, how much more? Is it a book? Is it a book a month? So I might need to sit down and kind of set up how much more I want to read and what I want to read.
I love that you said that. So back in 2020, my New Year's resolution, I'm actually still working on my New Year's resolution for 2020. I resolved to read the great books, which is a list of the seminal works of the Western canon, right? Starting from Homer and going through to the modern era. And I knew it was going to be a multi-year goal, which I think is kind of good in and of itself to have that long a term of a goal. It instills the different kind of discipline than a short-term goal does. And it's been one of the most fulfilling things that I've had in my life over the past 3 years. I've top shelf there. Too. Thank you. But the top couple shelves are the books, right? Like I said, I started with Homer's, read the Greeks, read a lot of philosophy, moved to the Romans. There's a lot of history in the Roman section of the great books list, which I love. Then moved to the medieval era and late antiquity, a ton of theology, love that. And then, I'm in the Renaissance and moving into the Enlightenment and early modern period now. In fact, I'm reading Michel de Montaigne's complete essays, which it's a brick, but he's a incredible writer. So I've really enjoyed my time with Montaigne.
What's funny about that is you're reading Montaigne and theology, and I'm reading fairies and elves killing themselves.
What series was that?
The Legends of Dritz.
Okay.
Yeah, that's I don't know. That's why I was laughing. Is I read a lot.
I used to read a lot of fantasy.
Tons of it. That's all I read.
Yeah.
But I need to step outside of that realm or more into it. Right now, I'm on the Throne of Glass, Assassin's Blade. So
people don't have to you don't have to do it like I did, where almost with every goal there's a negative to it, and the negative to this is that I've had to be really disciplined on just reading books that are on that list, or I'm never going to get through it. I wanted to have it done in 5 years, give or take, 5 to 6 years. I'm a voracious reader, but I'm not a very fast reader. But, you could do it where you read a serious work and then you read a fun work. Yeah. And
that'd be good mentally.
If anybody wants to do that, I'm more than happy to provide you my book list. But the most important thing is to make sure, especially with the ancient sources, the books that you're going to read, kind of really read Shakespeare. Everything's you're going to have to get an interpretation. I guess the Canterbury Tales, you can read it in the original, like Middle English, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's finding a good interpretation. A bad interpretation of a book can make a great work seem like a slog. So that would be my And if anybody wants to reach out for me for advice on interpretations to either, or translations, I'm not saying interpretation, I meant translations to either read or to stay away from, happy to help with that. I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to reach out because I would like to further my reading sources, not so much just fantasy, kind of branch out. I had another one here that was kind of set specifically for fresh civilians, so veterans just getting out. And that one is to know your worth when you're applying for jobs and know how to sell yourself. I did this one because you were asking if there was a previous, well, I'll just say like back when I first got out, I didn't realize until years later that I had no idea what civilians were making money wise. I had no idea what my worth was after 6 years of military. So the first job, I think I was offered $10 an hour, $10.25, and I was super excited. I thought that was like amazing money. But I had a degree in drafting and design.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like a year later where I heard someone be like, "Oh yeah, I got a raise. I'm making like 25 an hour." I was like,
like what?
So I would highly recommend knowing that. Don't just think because you were military for however many years that now you're a civilian, you're starting at zero. Know that your experience can transfer over, and dig into that. Know how to sell it. Whether it's your leadership experience or your whatever degrees you got while you were in, or even accountability of weapons and nods.
Oh yeah, the amount of money that you had to sign for and be responsible for in the military. I'll put that on my resume. I haven't really updated my resume, but that was definitely on my resume when I got out.
If you're going to go into something like accounting or anything to do with money or being responsible, like just don't go out there and be like, well, I'm a civilian at ground zero and start at the bottom, because it's going to make life very difficult.
Even if you were just, combat arms guys like me and you, I made the joke when I got out, nobody really cared in an interview whether I could, reassemble, disassemble, do a function check on a, 240 blindfolded in under whatever minutes. But it's the soft skills, right? And also, especially if you're an NCO, especially if you've gone to like a Soldier of the Month board or something, you can kill an interview. Oh man, you walk out of there and they think you walk on clouds. Always been able to do good in interviews because of that, right? Because I had to prepare for that E5 board and other boards like Excellence and Cavalry board that I went to.
Yeah,
it's such a good kind of trial by fire, and you can walk into any interview and be confident.
Yeah, almost too confident. I remember. I don't know if they told you all the same thing. Our big thing when we were going to the E5 board was like, no matter what you say, stand behind it, die on that hill. And
what color? What color's the sky?
Yeah,
it's red for a sergeant. Are you sure? 100%. Confidently wrong.
One of the first sergeants on my board, he had to have either been having a bad day or nobody had answered this question correctly. And I cannot remember what it was. I just remember it had agitated me, which was probably the point. But I had not missed a single question the whole board. And I get to the last first sergeant. And for those of you that don't know, I was infantry, so there's no women in the infantry, or wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts asking me female regulations. And like after the second one, I'm agitated. I'm just like, oh, it's this. And he's like, nope, that's wrong. I was like, nope, it's right. Like after a while, he stops and he's like, look, I know they told you be confident. He was like, but you're wrong. You need to stop. And I was just like, at that point, my mind was like, do I keep being confident? Or do
Some kind of mind games here.
Which I ended up stopping. And my response to him was, okay, can you enlighten me? And he it seemed to make him a little happier. He was like, yeah, this is what it is. And I was like, okay, I'll remember that. But
yeah, that's funny. But I mean, it worked. Got stripes.
Yeah, I never did fail a board. I actually was I passed the board for staff sergeant, and made points for staff sergeant, but I had my orders in my hands, and they told me if I didn't re-enlist to go on the 3rd deployment, they weren't going to pin me, and they didn't. So I never got to wear it.
Yeah. Well, you're staff sergeant in my eyes. Congratulations, you outranked me.
Thank you. Thank
you. So I went to my promotion board and on deployment. And so, it wasn't dress uniform or anything.
Those are awesome.
It was, it was great. I mean, my weapon had to be absolutely spotless, but that was kind of the inspection rather than uniform inspection. It's like hand over your employer. So. But I had a really good, people have horror stories about their chain of command. And I know there's some really toxic command structures out there, but my chain of command was amazing. I told them I knew on deployment that I was going to get out. I had struggled with a little bit, but about mid deployment, I'm like, you know what? I want to go on to the next part of my life. I want to go to college, this kind of stuff. I want to have a family was a really big reason that I got out. Which I know you didn't have a family in there, but for me, I wanted to get out. And my command knew that, but I'd been an E4 team leader from before deployment, since like training for deployment. And my section sergeant and my platoon sergeant and on up the chain, they were like, you're doing the job, you deserve the rank. Rather than holding it over my head, it's like, well, you're not going to re-enlist, why would we worry with you? So, I was really blessed with an awesome chain of command. I love all those guys.
My chain of command was good. I have no complaints. I've had bad apples here and there. The biggest thing I'll say good for my chain of command was, dude, if you wanted to excel, it was too easy. If you wanted aerospace, airborne, ranger tab, any type of Pathfinder school, I mean, it was done. They could get you in there. If you were willing to put in the work, they were really good about getting dudes where they wanted to be. But like I said, they were not too fond of dudes wanting to like leave the duty station or get out of the military.
Yeah.
Which is what it is. I get that point too. They've invested years into you. In my case, 4 years with that unit. So I can kind of see where that sucks. You're low on NCOs and they dip set. My next one, I guess I wrote one for veterans too, since I did one for civilians. So that I have one specific to each. And that one's going to be that it's okay to show emotions. So going into the new year, if you're sad, if you're happy, it doesn't mean you're gay if you laugh. So there's a lot of stigma in the military behind joy, sadness, excitement. And it's a habit I'm trying to break myself. And I know it's super difficult. But it's all right. If you cry, nothing wrong with it. If you're happy, there's nothing wrong with laughing. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't give anybody any type of edge over you. And that's my biggest one with a lot of veterans is they don't think that they can be themselves a lot of the times.
That's terrible. A terrible way to go through life. My military service didn't instill that in me. If your military service instilled, the fact that, obviously, you don't want to go around bawling all the time, breaking down in tears, that would be kind of fun. But like, showing joy or laughing, I'm sorry. And listen to Josh.
I mean, that could be very.
You go through life suppressing yourself. No way to go through life.
That could be very specific to me too. I mean, everybody had different experiences in the military, different leadership, different groups. I know mine were, especially for my first couple of years, they were pretty hardcore. Almost my entire platoon was in Restrepo, and dude, they were a bunch of savages, and that's kind of what it was. You just kind of had to keep up.
And a lot, some of that probably also has to do with your personality type, going in and coming out and just, throughout your life. If you're higher in, trait neuroticism, if you, higher in negative emotion, or if you're higher in, extroversion or lower in extroversion, all this can have an effect on just, how you carry yourself throughout your life. And all that is pretty set in stone there. You can, fiddle around the edges a little bit, but a lot of that's set in stone. And a lot of that's kind of, the ancient Greek proverb, know thyself. And then once you know yourself, you can be comfortable with, how God built you, or how your experiences built you, your genetics built you. But no, that is good advice.
It's good to know that your unit didn't have any type of stigma to crying or.
Oh no, crying like that. It was more the laughing that struck me as a little strange. No, I don't think I saw anybody cry. That would have been frowned upon.
All out there just holding their whoopies.
Say the least.
Please, God, stop.
I was going to call in if somebody didn't mention whoopies as the greatest piece of Army equipment that they were issued on that episode a while back. I love it. And I texted you and told you that my wife actually bought me a full quilt size or twin sized whoopee for my Christmas or my birthday back when we were dating, and it's glorious. I mean,
which is the best thing. That's the best thing I've ever heard, because I really wish I had one.
Amazing.
They were so cozy.
Unfortunately, it's like digicamo, so I have this ugly digicamo will be hanging on my couch.
I don't know what it was about it, but it was always so silky and cold. No matter how hot it was outside, I could slide my whoopee over me, and it almost dropped my temperature somehow. I don't know what they imbued this thing with.
I remember, so when I was in Korea, I was in the 2-9 infantry in the headquarters scout element or recon element for the scout. Or for the headquarters company. I'll get that right eventually. And in 2-9 infantry, there were the Manchus, right? And there's something called the Manchu Mile, which is a 25-mile, all through the night ruck march. And it happens every 6 months. And actually, when you are talking about wisdom teeth, that was one of the main uses for a wisdom teeth surgery, was to get out of the Manchu Mile. I never did it, but I never used my wisdom teeth. I did 2 of them. And actually, I got a belt buckle you can see hanging down. You got a belt buckle. It's one of the only belt buckles that's officially licensed to be worn on your belt in any unit in the Army. So anyway, at every stop, you'd have little stops every once in a while. So you could change your socks or eat an orange or refill your water at the water buffalo. I would do whatever I had to do really quick, and then for the remaining whatever it was 10 minutes, I think there were 15-minute stops. Get my whoopee out and sprawl up under it. Which is the wrong move, because then when you get up, your feet are all swollen and not numb anymore.
You don't want to.
I tell you, the worst part of that was that halfway through, right? You start it and you go walking up the mountain behind the base or whatever, and then you come down and you're about halfway through. The second half is the easier half. It's pretty much flat. You walk along the river, but to get there, you have to walk straight past your barracks. It's 2 a.m. and you're like, oh, home, bed. It's terrible.
So close.
Then you get the next day off, but you need it because your feet are bleeding and.
How many miles did you say it was?
It's pretty awful. It's 25.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of it's mountains, and you have a full ruck. And the second one I did, I was the one of 2 guidon bearers for our unit. And so I had to carry the doggone heavy flag half the way.
Sucks.
And 2-9 infantry has been around since the Civil War. So it's the campaign streamers, it weighs.
That sounds miserable.
I ruined a uniform between the strap for that and my rucksack with my rifle strapped to the back of it. I rubbed I've always been a kind of skinny guy. And so my collarbones and stuff kind of stick up, and it had 2 bleeding patches. Oh my God. Or my shoulder bones up here and bled through my uniform.
That's always a good time.
Yeah.
Dude, I hate the
lines. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was gonna ask if you had any fun New Year's, like maybe a PG-13 New Year's stories from when you were in the service. Anything memorable?
I mean, I have one that I wrote down, and it was a don't do. That was it just so happens my first duty station. Yeah. When I got there, like right at the start of the new year, and my unit had just deployed like 2 days before I got there. So I had just enough time to in process and out process to go to Afghanistan. Yeah. And so on New Year's Day, I went to the strip club. And I spent New Year's in there, and I do not recommend, guys. So if you're ever thinking that it'd be fun, it's not. It was like me, 3 of the grade B strippers, and half a bottle of wine. That was the whole night.
Sad.
It was depressing. You would think it'd be a blast, but it really wasn't.
That reminds me of when I got to Fort Campbell with the 101st. I got there like a couple days after everybody, or I got to my unit a couple days after everybody had gone on Christmas block leave. And so I was kind of there. I was kind of depressed that Christmas Day rolled around. I can't stay in this barracks room anymore. And so I'm like, what's going to be open on Christmas? Well, Waffle House. So I went to Waffle House and stayed sitting at Waffle House for like 4 hours, like talking to the waitresses that played sad songs on the jukebox, eating waffles.
That's what's funny is
but those are the memorable ones.
Most New Year's I can think of in the military were pretty depressing. If not depressing, they were just like I was either in country or in the field, or I don't ever remember having a good New Year's.
Yeah. I had a really good New Year's, actually, or very memorable New Year's when I was actually in country. Would have been New Year's 2013 to 2014. So we were on guard duty. We had 3 platoons, and we rotated 3 days each between a mission platoon, QRF platoon, and guard platoon. And I was on guard duty down at the alternate ECP, which was right by kind of the wall for the cop.
Yeah.
And I had my truck down there. Had like a little crow system, which y'all talked about a little bit.
Yep.
And I had like the 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock or 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift. So New Year's was going to fall right in my guard time. And all of my, at like 11:45, all of my platoon that wasn't on guard duty came down to the alternate ECP. And I think platoon sergeant had like gotten a care package full of cigars. And so we all sit around smoking cigars. And then New Year at 12 o'clock, we all got whatever flares we can get our hands on. So, I had the grenade launcher. So I had, flare grenades, and you had the handheld,
star clusters.
Grenades, star clusters. Yeah. And so we all just lit it up, man. Looked like the 4th, or looked like New Year's, looked like fireworks. But then the mortar unit, we had told the TOC that what we were going to do. And so the mortar unit called into the TOC, asked what was going on. And they're like, 3rd platoon's down there popping off, quote unquote, fireworks. And they're like, okay, let's do. And so the mortar unit started getting in all that. So the mortar's going, and I'll send you a picture. I took a picture of it. Yeah, it was one of the more memorable. I'm sure the Afghans on the other side of we had a little ridge line that separated our side of the cop from the Afghan side of the cop. I'm sure they were like, what is going on? Are we being attacked? Oh, it was a Black Betty drill, which is what we called if like someone had come in the wire, if the enemy had crossed the wire, we called it a Black Betty drill. I think that's what we called it. So they were like, oh, Black Betty. Now I'm just shooting off fireworks.
No, I would love to see that picture. That sounds like a good time.
I'll send it to you. It was, I think, it's just when we were down there popping off star clusters before the mortar unit had gotten into it. But no, that was really fun.
I think the only thing similar to that I can think of is we were at, I don't remember what they were writing about. It was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Afghans were pissed off about something and had kind of like pushed up to our HESCOs and were like throwing bottles and stuff. And we all just kind of like got on the Hescos and lined it with CS gas canisters. And somebody on the loudspeakers just started blaring that old song "Sail." You know where it's like,
"Sail." Oh yeah. Imagine Dragons or something, isn't it? Yeah.
And you just see
that's going to be stuck in my head for a month. Yeah.
You just see gas canisters going over all the walls, star clusters popping above them as cells blasting. It was wild.
That's hilarious.
It dispersed them very, very quickly.
Oh yeah, CS gas will do that. Yeah, no doubt about it.
I don't even remember what that was all about. They were mad about something.
Apparently. Well, do you go ahead? I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to ask if you had any, or you might have already mentioned it, but I forgot it. Do you have any resolutions for this year, for 2024?
Yeah, just my main resolution.
To focus on yourself. Yeah, I forgot. I'm sorry.
Well, to read more, and then making sure that I'm in church every Sunday is a big one too.
That's so important,
dude. With the kids getting sick this time of year, and then in the summertime going on vacations and stuff, it always just kind of ends up getting pushed to the wayside. And I want to be a little more diligent about ensuring that we're there every Sunday, because I've been a little lackadaisical with it this year. Which it was a hectic year. We moved around the U.S. a lot, and so you
feel it, don't you? It's like if you fell out of the gym for a month.
Yeah,
you would feel it, yeah, but just not physically. You'd feel it spiritually. Yeah, that's a great one, and it's so easy to fall out, right? You miss a couple Sundays, and the next thing you know, it's like, let me stay home and catch the early NFL game over in Germany or London or wherever they're having it.
And it's the same.
But the key is just to not make it. It's the same with the gym. Yeah, the key is to not make it a thought, right? It's like, well, of course it's Sunday, I'm going to church, or with the gym, of course it's whatever time, going to work out. Yeah, which I struggle a lot more with the waking up in the mornings to go work out than I do. Church. I've never been a morning person. People ask me when I got out of the military, it's like, oh, do you still wake up at like 5:30 every morning? I'm like, no, absolutely not. Kidding me,
dude? I haven't been to the gym in probably 2 years, and it's just my big thing is, and I mentioned it on a previous episode, is push-ups. I've started. That's like my regiment. Is I make sure to do like 250 a day, and it doesn't matter when or what order or sets or anything like that. That's just kind of my goal every day. So if I slack at the beginning of the day, I just have to do more at the end of the day. And for that reason, I was getting up early and going to the gym, and then it got to the point I was like, dude, I don't want to get up early. And then after work, I want to come home and watch some TV. And
after work is an absolute non-starter for me.
Dude, it's the worst.
I'll do stuff like that when, I'll make myself do push-ups and stuff if, I skip the gym. I've had some little minor piddling injuries, right? That's just been enough to keep me out from lifting weights over the past month and a half, 2 months. And it's been kind of depressing since watching all, whatever games. That never got big, trust me, but I was, a lot fitter and bigger than I am at this point right now. Just seeing how quickly it disappears. But, knowing that you could also get back to that same place, it takes hard work.
I felt good the other day. I was at work because I work in a cubicle now. So I just kind of dropped down throughout the day, and I was doing some push-ups, and a guy walked by and he was like, oh, I remember when I was young, I could do push-ups. And I guess he didn't know he's only 2 years older than me. So it made me feel really good.
That's hilarious.
He's like 35. I'm 33. So it made me feel good. I was like, oh, good. Staying in decent shape.
Yeah. But you brought up church, and I want to make my appeal to veterans, right? Because church is one of the things, getting back in church is one of the things that really helped me to get past that initial, just back from deployment, just out of the military, where a lot of people sink down in some pretty deep holes. And I myself was struggling with some things at the time, some, substance things, not like hard drugs or anything, but things I felt like I needed to do just to be able to get a night's sleep. and church, reintegrating with family, finding a new mission, and also going to church is one of the things that really helped me out. And what the two complaints that people have getting out of the military, probably more than any others, is your loss of community and your loss of purpose. Mm-hmm. And religion offers both of those things. Now it's a totally different community and a totally different purpose from a military platoon. Don't get me wrong, but it can offer those things, right? You're plugging yourself into like a pre-built community. It's like you don't have to create one AirStats by finding friends or groups or whatever. It's already existing. And the advice I would give to someone who does want to start going to church is to obviously find one that you're comfortable in and everything, but just like going to a new unit in the military, you're not going to like change the culture of that unit to like fit you. You change, like you adjust, not in a bad way, not like you're not being true to yourself, but you adjust yourself to fit into that culture. It's the same with a congregation, right? You're going to have to mold yourself to that pre-existing culture, but the benefits of it are just astronomical. I would recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, and I would too. And it becomes a touchy subject for a lot of people. I don't know why religion is always, it's a touchy subject. And there's my co-host, me and him have different views. So his is definitely interesting to me. It's not never really, I would like to, maybe I have people and it knocks out, you mentioned earlier, Johanny.
There's a movie of Christianity, have a muscularity now.
The definition of Roman.
By Christian they were. Oh,
that's the circle.
That really come on. It's weird. It does make hard truth, right? At the same time, you can think two people within the same congregation, the exact same thing. The religious text. I'm just going to talk about the Bible. By tradition. It's deep enough. But actual deep, right? Foundational work is there's you can one passage and get so many different things out of it, right?
Yeah, lots of different.
You'll have a reading of something, and then I'll have a different reading of something, but they aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
Right.
They don't have to be mutually exclusive. Sometimes they are. But yeah, it is touchy, especially in our society today, increasingly secular society.
But I would love to do it one of these days. I think that's about it for the podcast. Dude, I enjoyed having you on again. I always enjoyed talking to you, getting to see you. And I hope that everyone had an amazing last year. And if you didn't, I hope that this year is considerably better. And if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to me. Adam, I'm sure wouldn't mind if you don't want to talk to me or Gillum. And is there anything else you want to say before you get out of here?
It's been an honor to be the first repeat guest on the Shield Wall. I love the show. I love what y'all are doing. Listen to every episode. Keep it up.
And I appreciate that.
I'm here to support y'all. Can I do the Gillum sign off?
Yeah, go for it.
Time to pop smoke.
Sounds good. Let's get out of here.
All right. Happy New Year's, everybody.
Happy New Year's, Adam.